I'd like to call this September 22nd, 2025 meeting of the Richfield Planning Commission to order. For the record, present are Commissioners Hui, Terrellson, Holmvig Johnson, Sursa, and Surma. The first item on the agenda would be our open forum. This is an opportunity for those present who may wish to speak on things generally not on the scheduled agenda for the meeting or that may have communicated to staff before the meeting today. I do know that we did receive one communication, but it's more relevant to the hearing later. Did we get any other communications in advance of the meeting today?
Chair and Commissioners, no. They were all related to public hearing items.
Okay. If anyone would like to speak, please approach the podium. All right. Seeing no one here for that, we will go on to approval of the agenda. I will accept a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
Commissioner Stursa, so move.
Commissioner Charlton seconds.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. The next thing would be the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting on July 28th. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Commissioner Hui moves to approve the minutes.
Commissioner Surma seconds.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. On our agenda now, we have presentations. Please go ahead.
Chair and Commissioners, there are no presentations this evening.
Okay. Then we will go into our public hearing. We have a public hearing for a site plan approval for 7424 Lindale Avenue South, conversion to retail. Could we have the staff report for that?
Thank you. Chair and Commissioners, Nathan Bruno Bryan, doing business as Lion Cannabis, LLC, is before us this evening requesting site plan approval in order to convert the existing building from a service use into a retail use. Retail sales are a permitted use in the C2 zoning district. However, a change of use triggers site plan approval, which is required in order to bring exterior improvements into conformance with current zoning code to the extent possible. In this case, the proposed improvements primarily affect the parking lot, which will be reduced in size to meet setbacks. Parking lot upgrades include seal coating, restriping, perimeter landscaping, EV charging stations, ADA-compliant access ramp and parking stalls, and other site improvements include a 6-foot wooden privacy fence that runs the entire length of the west property line. I would like to take a moment to point out two issues. One, we've received a few comments on is traffic. Staff anticipates that the traffic will be comparable to a tobacco shop, which will be a slight increase over the previous use of a gentleman's hair replacement salon, but not significant enough to require concern or study. With the only access to the parking lot being off of Lindale Avenue, this is not expected to have a noticeable impact on any of the adjacent streets, including Lindale Avenue, which is currently operating 20% below its peak average daily traffic levels from when it was 4 lanes in the past. And the current 3-lane configuration has additional capacity available to handle the expected increase from the previous use to the proposed use. The other item that I'd like to take a moment to touch upon is the city's amount of discretion with this land use application. Site plan approvals must be granted if the proposal meets the performance standards listed in the code. The city's discretion is limited to evaluating compliance with this established criteria, and if the proposal complies, the standards must be met. Staff cited in the report only 2 ways in which the code is not currently being met, and that is in relation to the building, which does not comply with the 35-foot setback requirement from Lindale Avenue. It's only, I think, 26 feet at its closest point, and the code specifically states that it is not intended to require changes that would be extremely impractical, such as moving or lowering buildings. And the other item is the freestanding sign, the face of which does not comply with the 5-foot setback requirement, again, from Lindale Avenue. It is a perfectly good sign that has been used for many years with no concerns for not meeting the 5-foot setback, and we plan to our staff's recommendation is to continue to allow the applicant to use the existing freestanding sign until its life has expired and it needs to be replaced. So to reiterate, no variances are being requested with this application. It is a commercially zoned site and is a commercially proposed use that is allowed by the zoning code. The last year was when the rules and regulations surrounding cannabis uses were discussed and proposed and approved. So now we are just a whole year later, basically, and we finally have an applicant coming forward. Also, so people are aware, this is not our first cannabis location. There is one retail store that is further along in the process than the applicant before us this evening. It is located over on Penn Avenue, just south of 66th. So this would be our second location, and the city will only be having three locations. I know that there was a comment received this morning that I emailed to you and placed at your chairs as well. And I also did want to go ahead and, as part of my staff presentation, read into the record one more comment that I did receive by email. It was after the deadline, but I'm going to make exception because it's from Commissioner Keneally. He says he supports the site plan for the Lion Cannabis at 7424 Lyndale. This site is zoned for commercial use and the proposal meets all the requirements. In fact, the applicant has agreed to make several improvements to the parking lot and the exterior of the business. The site is an established commercial district, high-traffic business such as Broadway Pizza, Speedway gas station, and multiple options for auto repair. The surrounding roads and infrastructure can accommodate the additional retail. Cannabis dispensaries face intense regulation and scrutiny. In my experience with medical cannabis dispensaries in Minnesota, they are required to prioritize safety and security. These are not boisterous tap rooms where community members gather for a good time on a patio. These are quiet businesses that keep limited hours and often require appointments for new customers. He poses 3 questions that he's asked me to address, which is why I'm kind of working it into the staff presentation. He says, is the applicant willing to install a fence that exceeds 6 feet in height to limit visibility? We cannot require this, but I would support it should it be a result of the discussion this evening. And as I have mentioned previously, it is something that, if the commission so recommends, could be worked in to the resolution of approval prior to the council meeting on the 14th of October. Can city staff walk us through the required number of parking spaces for this kind of business and show how the applicant's plan satisfies the city's requirements? So I would like to point out that the customer floor area for this type of use is extremely small. You walk in the front door, you are immediately carded because you are not allowed into this. It's not like a liquor store where you're carded at the point of sale. You're carded immediately upon entry. And if you look at the floor plan for this building, you are basically kind of immediately in the customer service area. It is very small. The rest of the building is storage, and upstairs are offices and the break room for the employees. So the parking is required for retail at the rate of 5 parking stalls per 1,000, and so they're required to have 8 parking stalls. They are going to have 8 parking stalls, so they are exactly meeting our code, but they also have 2 garage stalls. So they have 2 extra interior parking stalls, and if you look at the layout of the parking lot, they could, if the parking was full and really tight, they could potentially park 2 more cars in front of the garage for a total of 12. And the most that was previously on the site was 13. I know that some people have counted 16. That counted 1 that was like on our city sidewalk and 2 others that backed out into each other. the ergonomics were not really there for those two stalls. So the parking proposed is extremely similar to the parking that's existing, even though some stalls have been reconfigured. And then finally, he asks, can the city staff please state the legal age for entering a dispensary and purchasing cannabis? The legal age is 21 for entering the store, and I asked the support services director if you could go in with parental permission if you were younger, that like if your parents literally standing right there, can you go in? And her understanding of the state rules were that only if it's medicinal could you go in as a minor, even with parental. You have to have your parent there still. But if it's, and then if with medicinal, you have to have a prescription. So it has to be doctor prescribed. So, with all that, I will again reiterate that no variances are being requested. Staff finds that the proposal aligns with the current code to the extent practical and therefore strongly recommends approval of the request, subject to the conditions listed in the draft resolution before you. Thank you.
Any commissioners have questions to staff before we open the public hearing?
Commissioner Hui, I have a question. This is about one of Brendan's questions, if that's okay, is this appropriate for that? He mentioned a fence. I'm curious, you know, some folks might appreciate a taller fence, some neighbors might not. The one concern with like, if they want to build a fence, I don't think we should require one. If they want to, how do you like get that approved with all the neighbors? What is that process? I don't want, you know, one neighbor happy there's a taller fence and one neighbor frustrated there is, that sort of thing.
Chair and Commissioners, that's a good point. There may be a neighbor that doesn't want an 8-foot tall fence along the property line. But I was envisioning that the Planning Commission could include that recommendation if you were so inclined, and we could write a variance for them that they would then have available to them if that was something. And they could probably also speak to their inclination towards a fence this evening, and we can work it out in the discussion.
I appreciate the background that you gave around the use, the cannabis use, just because it's a new use for the city of Richfield and for the state of Minnesota for recreation, even though it is not in the purview of the site plan. But to the concerns that we've heard from comments already submitted, is on-site consumption permitted?
On-site consumption is not permitted. I did, I should probably stop there, but I'm not going to. I did also talk with the the support services manager about where you can smoke. And you certainly cannot smoke in the building. We have an Indoor Clean Air Act. Smoking on site is not permitted. Smoking in parks is not permitted. Smoking at any events that are city sponsored not permitted, but smoking on a sidewalk is permitted. Just like you can walk down the street and smoke a cigarette, you can walk down the street and smoke cannabis. So that is hopefully gives a more robust answer to that question.
Thank you.
Is the applicant here? Yeah, if you wanted to approach the podium and sign in and say your name for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Nathan Bruin O'Brien, and I'm the applicant on the agenda today.
Do we have any questions for the applicant at this time?
Hi, thanks for joining us. I guess, you know, we've received a number of responses from folks here, and just kind of curious, have you engaged in any conversations with neighbors or anyone in the community, and would you mind sharing about any of those conversations or experiences, please?
Yeah, so I'm in somewhat new territory, so just transparently, I brought my business partner here. His name is Daniel Yarbrough. Do you want him to sign in? Okay. So I've been a general contractor in the Richfield, Bloomington area for the last 10 years and ran a painting business before that. I had a real estate license prior to also. I haven't been advertising this as I have my previous businesses before, quote unquote, opening the doors, just because it's such new territory and I didn't want to. I wanted to go through the proper channels before I really started having those conversations. So short answer, I haven't talked to anyone outside of my personal circle, and certainly would love to and start attending more meetings like this because I understand the stigma around this and potential concerns. I've communicated a bit indirectly with some Richfield residents that have been emailing Sam just about some concerns, and one was a big concern about traffic. And we sort of discussed how this is a pretty in and and Danny, you can certainly speak to this if you'd like, but this is a pretty in and out sort of retail business. It's not like a bar or restaurant where there's a lunch rush or anything like that. People come in, they buy, they make their purchase, and they leave. So I don't foresee the parking lot being full ever, and if it was, we could certainly address it at that time. But long-winded answer to your question, no, I haven't had extensive discussions because I didn't know what would come of this meeting, and just this is all pretty new. So.
No, that's fine. Thank you. I was just curious.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you for the application and for being here tonight. I'm wondering if you, again, we're reviewing a site plan, which is not about the use, but want to get it out in the open to address any of the concerns that we've heard. Can you talk about how, Sam spoke a little bit to it, but like how you would anticipate a customer interacting with your business, how long they're on site, if you expect that there would be odor emanating, just kind of like walk through, if I'm a customer, what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. I could take a stab at it. Danny's been running several dispensaries and businesses in Washington for a long time. That's why I brought him. I'm going to let Danny address that because he has a lot of experience.
My name is Daniel Yarbrough. I have a dispensary currently in Spokane, Washington. So Nate brought me on to kind of like help him go through all the systems and tools in place like that. For example, you were talking about a customer come in, and Sam mentioned this too. We have a security guard working the front door. As soon as they walk in, they have to be carded. And then once they go through that, they go to the counter and they deal with quote, quote, a bud tender. That's what they're called. That's the people working the counters. And then when they work the counter, their ID gets scanned through the POS system. And if the ID doesn't get scanned through the POS system correctly, the purchase can't go through. So they get kind of like a double check. So the security guard at the front door checks them before they come in. Anyone under the age of 21 cannot come in. We do recreational use and medical use. So they get double checked at that front door, and then when they go to the counter, the POS system scans their card, scans their ID, and then sometimes IDs, there are of the legal age, and they still won't go through. The POS system locks up. It won't let us purchase. Won't let us sell to them. So that's kind of like our double verification way of coming in and out. There's no use on site, so usually when people come in, they know what they want, come in, purchase, they're in and out. Like Nate was saying, there's no lunch rush, dinner rush, stuff like that. So at my store currently, you might not, it's hardly ever more than 2 cars there. It's like 1 car, 2 cars, just sort of in and out throughout the day.
You mentioned the odor too. I don't know if you want to address it.
The odor?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so in Washington, and I assume everything's gonna be the exact same here, so I'm speaking for what I currently do in Washington. Everything's prepackaged, everything's prepackaged, sealed. So it's not like the medical days where they had jars, they opened it up, people smelled it, there's odor. Everything is prepackaged. It's the state tests everything, and then once it goes to the stores, everything prepackaged. You can't even allow to open up the package on site. So if they purchase something, they open it up at home, it doesn't work. There's nothing we can do about it. Everything is prepackaged and sealed.
So it sounds this would be similar to an interaction that someone might have in like one of our municipal liquor stores. Like they come in, they look at the product, except with the added security of someone at the door.
Exactly.
They make their selection, they purchase, and they leave.
Yeah, and then another thing they do now is you can look online to see, because there's different strains, this, that, other, that come through like the farms and stuff. So they can look online, see what they want, this, that, and other, and then they can come in expecting the product to be on the shelves and stuff. These liquor stores usually have the exact same product. With cannabis, it might be this time of the year, this thing came out, or this time of the year, this came out. It just depends on like the flower and concentrates, whatever happens.
One more question. When do you anticipate opening if all of the approvals go as planned?
We have a lot of construction to do. We are both contractors, so I have a lot of connections with laborers. I think the biggest thing is we have to remove some asphalt, and we want to do as much as we can before the winter, 60 days after approval.
Well, I guess this is all new, so we have like a huge step-by-step thing we have to go through the Office of Cannabis Minnesota. Then we have your guys' stuff we have to go through, so we don't really know exactly how many steps we go through and how long it's going to take.
We were provided a roadmap, and what we do know is once we have approval from our local municipality, we have to send, I believe, the site plan to OCM, and then they come in for a safety inspection, and that's when they grant the license. And what I'm unclear on, I actually sent them an email today, is are they coming in to check out the site before we do work, or do we do all the work and then they come in and approve it? But regardless, the construction is probably the biggest thing, and is the inspection after construction or before? So I'm waiting on answers on that.
And then with security concerns and OCM, when they come in and do the inspection, they'll ask the security system. They have access to the cameras all the way to 6 months back. They can come in at any time, check the cameras out, and they were probably going to do an inspection. In Washington, they do inspection every single year, just to check your cameras out, pull stuff off, but they can come in anytime they want.
Thank you. I hope if you stay available in case there are some questions after the hearing that you might be able to answer. That'd be helpful.
Say one more time, sorry.
If you wouldn't mind, if you don't mind, we might ask you to come back up to answer some of the
Oh, sure,
questions.
yeah,
later.
absolutely, yep.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I would like to open the public hearing. If you are here to make a comment or speak to this matter, please approach the podium.
Hi, I'm Sean Foley, 7421 Aldrich Avenue South, directly behind the proposed site. And we've appreciated all the information and the thoroughness with which the city staff has replied to the questions that the neighbors have had. As indicated, the site has been zoned for commercial since, I believe, 1999. And so but I think it's important to put in context for the neighborhood that I think it's been the hair restoration clinic that entire time. And they talked, it's going to be relatively low traffic, but it's going to be exponentially greater than the previous use had. And so I think that's partly just the change that has people concerned at least a little bit. We personally, my wife and I personally appreciate some of the site planning that's gone in. We definitely appreciate the fact that the trees are staying. Richfield's losing a lot of trees, and we appreciate that those are staying. We appreciate the thought of the fence. I believe most of the yards that abut the proposed site already have 6-foot property fences. And so although the thought is nice, I'm not sure it quite adds a whole lot to the feeling. I haven't talked to all the neighbors, but we personally would definitely be in favor of an increased height. I haven't talked to anyone else about this, but I also think it would alleviate some concerns if there were fences on more than just the west side on the back of the lot. I don't know if that has been considered or would be allowed or not. As far as the traffic goes, I appreciate all the information about Lyndale and the way it can support it. I think part of the concern of our block, the 7400 block of Aldrich, is that we've had a lot of concerns about the traffic on 75th long before this business was proposed. And I think we'll be submitting another request to consider a stop sign, four-way stop at 75th and Aldrich. There are always a lot of cars parked on the block, the 7500, on 75th Street between Aldrich and Lyndale. There's a school bus stop on the south side of Aldrich. on Aldrich on the south side of 75th. It's always just very dicey when kids are trying to cross 75th with all those cars to the east. It's very hard for people to see cars coming across that intersection. And so even if this business doesn't add a lot of traffic to the intersection, we're still concerned about that intersection, I guess, sort of regardless of this. I think that's it. We appreciate all the information, and I guess we'll be seeing you out our backyard potentially, so it's nice to meet you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brad Diamond. I live at 7409 Aldrich Avenue South, a couple doors down from the Foley's. The primary concern that I have, again, is traffic, and I'll reiterate, I don't want to recover what Sean's already talked about, but parking and traffic is a significant concern. To my knowledge, there hasn't been a traffic study done in many years on the Lyndale side. Maybe I'm incorrect on that, but especially since we've gone to the 3-lane traffic configuration on Lyndale, people have taken to using Aldrich Avenue South as a bypass. They want to avoid the stoplights down on 76th and Lyndale, so they'll come on 74th and on 75th and on 76th and run Aldrich Avenue South down through those blocks. So we've got significantly more traffic there from outside traffic, outside being non-resident of our particular neighborhood. So I have a concern that will be increased. Sean did discuss the fact that there was a low traffic volume at the hair restoration place. I obviously wasn't a customer. However, any retail establishment, even as described as being relatively low volume at any given time, is going to increase that traffic volume as well, which may again lead to more bypass traffic on Aldrich Avenue South. Sean mentioned the bus stop down on 75th and Aldrich. I frequently am walking my dog in the morning at about the time the kids are down there. Traffic comes through there pretty quickly. There's very limited sight lines, and the folks who live on the block know those kids are going to be down there, take it pretty easy, but any of that rerouted traffic is a significant risk to those children. I go down through those intersections myself regularly, obviously, when I'm driving. I'm very loath to go through that 75th and Aldrich intersection. So any additional traffic routed through there, any additional overflow parking, I don't necessarily expect overflow parking from the proposed business, or any additional traffic down there just adds to that risk and that burden on the neighborhood. So those are my primary concerns. That, listening and discuss their business plan, I have no objections to what they're doing. Selling marijuana, great. I wish them well. It's just the particular specific location that I'm concerned about. Thank you for your time.
Hello. I want to first address the people from Aldrich Avenue. Oh, yes, my apologies. My name is Anastasia Greenman, and I live on 7435 Lyndale Avenue. I live in the apartment complex there. I want to first say thank you to the people on Aldrich Avenue for giving your opinions. I don't know what it's like on that street, so it's very nice to hear your concerns about the traffic. And I agree that maybe something should be done about that, like maybe more stop signs, so people are forced to be slower on those streets, so that way they can be more careful for the children there, of course. I also would like to say some other concerns about traffic, specifically foot traffic. I mostly walk and bike, and I actually take care of all the bus stops that are in this area. So I pick up all the garbage there, and I get free bus passes through the Metro Transit thing that they do. Anyways, I wanted to say that I have had many encounters, especially as of late, crossing the lit-up foot traffic thing, and people will speed up to go through it, completely ignoring the flashing lights. Like, I will be in the middle of it, and someone will be like, "It's yellow, I can go." So it's very annoying, and I feel like if people are going to possibly be coming here from the bus stops, then if someone's coming from the north side, then they're going to have to cross the street to go back north when they come to visit this place. And if someone is coming from perhaps Penn Avenue and they're taking the 4 all the way around, then they're going to be on that side again. So they're going to have to cross the street. And I feel like if we're going to install a business that might attract people from other places, even if they're not coming by car, it should be made to be more safe for the pedestrians there, because I've had too many negative experiences with people just speeding through when the lights are flashing. And that's only on one side of 75th. The other side doesn't even have the flashing lights. So that's a concern that I have personally about the traffic in that area. Beyond that, I think that this is a great idea, but that's just me. And yes, I think that's all I had to say.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right. In addition to the, just for the record, we did receive multiple emails, correct? You had forwarded those on, and then there was another one left for us on the chairs today.
Yes, Chair and Commissioners, there were about 4 different households represented in the comments that were received and forwarded by email.
Seeing no one else here to speak, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Commissioner Surma so moves to close the public hearing.
Commissioner Hui seconds.
All right, moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, discussion.
I guess I had one question, if that's okay, Commissioner Hui. Staff, what is the lighting situation in the parking lot? I know we talked about lighting codes and stuff before. I'm sure this has to comply with all that, but just to be clear, what will the lighting look like in the parking lot, and just how will that, affect the neighbors?
Yeah. Chair and Commissioners, we do not have a lighting plan from the applicant as of yet. We do have code requirements with minimum and maximum foot candles, and they are proposing some lighting because conceptually, so we will take a look at that in greater detail as they get towards building permit. That's pretty much all I can say. We will be analyzing it. We just don't have those details at this point in the process.
That's fine, yeah. If it's okay if I ask a couple follow-up questions. Another one, we talked about the fence. I'm fully supportive of, an option to do a higher fence with support of all the neighbors. I just want to make sure that, it's not peeving somebody while pleasing somebody else. So if we did want to explore that or give them that option as a community to kind of resolve and say, if everyone wants to do it, they can do it, but I don't think anyone should be forced to. And then, I think I'm very supportive of this project. I think the conversations around traffic are very legitimate. I wish that was in our purview to fix today. As a frequent pedestrian myself, I also think that people just don't regard our crosswalks, but that's another problem for another day. But thanks you for presenting.
Commissioner Surma here. Yeah, and I agree with what Commissioner Hui mentioned about the traffic safety situation. I agree. I live very close by in this neighborhood as well, and I cross these crosswalks quite often. And yeah, there's flashing lights, and often drivers don't stop for them. And I noticed like the flashing lights that were embedded in the pavement originally are no longer functioning. And I don't think this is really in our purview, but I would just say as a friendly thing to staff, please pass it along to Public Works that the flashing light infrastructure at 75th and Lyndale just this is me and the person mentioned it as well, needs to be looked at for safety, because that is a legitimate safety concern in this area, and is worth addressing. I agree with what was said about the fencing. I think it should be explored a bit more. I don't want to impose it on anyone who may not want it. And I'd also encourage the applicants to work with, if at possible, the apartment building next door that is directly adjacent and overlooking this lot, if there's any sort of desire for fencing or screening or any sort of buffer there. I don't know if there is or not, but it hasn't been mentioned yet today. So I wanted to encourage conversation around that side of the property as well.
Planner Crosby, I was just curious, we've been talking about a variance for a fence, but would this meet the legal standards that we have to grant a variance? That would be my question.
Chair and Commissioners, I do not see a true practical difficulty. However, the city does have discretion to allow deviation from code when it is the result of a conversation during a public hearing that is the intent to protect neighboring properties. So it is within your purview to do without, or to at least recommend, without a viable practical difficulty in this case. Does that make sense? Did I articulate that well enough?
While we're on the fence issue, was there, I was on the site today and I noticed that all of the residential property had 6-foot fences on the back. Like, what is the logic of putting a fence on the back and not on the sides? Like, can you speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, thank you. The logic is that the fence is supposed to be screening. It is not supposed to be, a barrier for traversing the neighborhood. So in as much as the true hardships for such a fence height variance might be if there were a deck and people were lingering outside and then they were raised up by 30 inches because they were standing on top of the deck, and then they had better views into people's backyards, then a higher fence might compensate for that. Or if there was a situation where the 25-foot buffer from the residential property line was not being met either by the parking lot or by the building in some way, then maybe to compensate for that closer proximity, you would have a taller fence. Those are not circumstances in this situation, but I don't see the fence as being meant to keep people.
Sure. I'm sorry. I must not have been clear.
So, sorry.
And I'm actually pretty reluctant to support an 8-foot. I don't see, other than adding stigma to the site, I don't know what benefit that would give properties around it. I guess my question, though, was, if there's already an existing 6-foot fence, why are we asking them to build their own 6-foot fence in the same location? And why are we, that apartment building overlooks, their windows overlook the parking lot. Why are we not requesting it on the north or south side of the property? I guess were my questions.
Okay, so the north side of the property is another commercial lot. So, and the code just as, that's where the code requires it from the low-density residential. But so the reason why you'd want the commercial property owners to install the 6-foot tall fence, even though there's already 6-foot tall fences right there, is because then the maintenance is on the commercial property owner. And if the single-family residential property owner didn't, their fence was falling down, they didn't have the funds to replace it, they would still have the screening in place without having the responsibility of maintaining it. So that's why, even though it does create a little bit of a hardship for that, 1 foot of space in between the two fences, yeah.
And so if I'm hearing you correctly, and then I'll let this point, but so we require it on single-family residential, but we don't require it on multifamily residential.
I believe that's correct.
And
Yeah.
do we have discretion on that? As a planning commission today, do we have
Yes.
discretion?
If it came as a result of a public hearing
Yeah.
about this item, that an 8-foot tall or even 6-foot tall fence was desired between the multifamily and the commercial use, then yes, that
There's something
could be.
instinctual that doesn't feel good that, single-family homes should have a buffer between a commercial use in a way that multifamily homes shouldn't. Like, that doesn't feel good to me. I don't know if that creates a whole host of other problems or if it's a concern for the apartment building dwellers or not, but like, there's something that doesn't sit very well with me on that. In terms of the 8-foot issue, we could try to get consensus for the homeowners in the back now, but if there was turnover, what would that mean? Like, I just think that it's a can of worms that perhaps we don't want to open, and I'm not seeing a real need. And then just some quick comments to move my part along. I am supportive of the site plan review. I think it is compliant to all of the things that we require. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't approve this. Although I do have questions about that fence, but all of the other staff recommended improvements, I think, are spot on, and I'm happy to see that site being used again. It may be a more intensive use than what was previously there, but it is still something that is permitted within our city has planned for that type of use on that property, so I don't think we can not consider it because it might provoke more traffic, but I do really appreciate that the city staff was quick to tell residents about the traffic form that we have where you can request a review of traffic calming measures. I forget the exact form, but I think that I saw that in the staff report, and I hope that the neighbors take advantage of that process because it looks like there's a lot going on in that neighborhood, and safe biking and walking and all of those things is really important. So I really do hope that you guys take advantage of that process. I think that process is separate than what we're reviewing today, and I'd be supportive of the application.
I really think this traffic question is something like there's a lot of noise about that, and I think there's some credence to that. And same experience as walking around there. I have had flashing lights don't seem to slow people down. My question mainly for Planner Crosby is what is the exact process to address that? I think that the issues there are likely not directly related to this project, but I do think that, getting these emails and the comments we've heard tonight, that there's some credence there. I just don't know what the process to address that is and if that's something we can even touch.
Chair Commissioner Charleston, the Traffic Control Committee, which is the forum, the people behind the forum that you just mentioned, is comprised of of people from various departments across the city. And we receive, and I say we because I'm on it, we receive requests from residents, and we sometimes do speed counts or car counts. Our engineering department has the ability to do those things. And we do have rules and regulations from the state, like standards that, maybe certain signs or like a traffic light can't be put up without certain conditions, or a stop sign cannot be put in without certain conditions. So there are some rules and regulations that we kind of have to adhere to when reviewing these requests. I will say in relation to a four-way stop at 75th and Aldrich, I reached out to our traffic engineer, and he says that this area has been evaluated several times over the past decade in response to complaints, and just the crash history and kind of general configuration of the intersection does not warrant a four-way stop. However, parking has been reduced in this area to increase visibility of the pedestrians trying to cross in that area, and we can continue as we receive more requests in the future. We can continue to look at it to monitor it to make sure that the conditions aren't changing, and that maybe at some point a four-way stop would be warranted. But yeah, just keep filling out the forms and we'll keep doing it.
Planner Crosby, how do you, now Lyndale is a county road, correct? At that point? No, it's not.
No, yeah, it's ours. Yeah, sorry, I had to think about it.
No, I'm,
Uh-huh.
Commissioner, I have another question. We mentioned building setback on the sign. The code is already built in with the building setback in mind, that we do not need to write in an additional variance. That variance is just
That's correct.
by the fact. Is there one for the sign? Does one need to be added for that?
No, I would not recommend that because we would look for the sign to come into conformance if and when it reaches the end of its useful life. So we wouldn't want to, and since variances kind of keep going with the property, I would
So
not suggest that.
they can continue to use the sign post and mounting as a non-conforming thing. They're allowed to change the signage without a variance? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, they're allowed to maintain and replace what's existing.
I just wanted to say that I agree with Commissioner Sturza about the eight-foot thing. I am not inclined to start giving variances for high fences because there's a reason that we have a 6-foot limit, and I don't want to set precedents of granting, higher fences all over the place. And I hadn't thought of the multifamily screening issue, and I think that's a legitimate question, maybe for looking at the code in general, but for this site as well, that if we're going to screen for the single-family homes, that we should similarly screen for the multifamily home as it's an issue of equity, really. So, I mean, can we would just need to amend the recommended action to add that, correct? I mean,
I'm sorry, are you suggesting that the Planning Commission add to a recommendation to look at the code in relation to this issue?
Yes, in general, yes. But specifically for this site, we could just amend our resolution that we forward to the City Council, correct?
Yeah, you can include whatever details in the recommendation the Planning Commission sees fit.
Just hate to not take advantage of having someone who lives in that apartment building on, is that, if you care to comment, do you think that would be welcome? Do you see any benefit to that? If you have no comment on it, that's fine too. Just curious, since you mentioned it, that you live in the apartment building. I don't live in the one directly next door, I live in the one across. Very good, very good. Okay, sorry about that, thank you.
I think we would need a motion to take the staff recommended action, and then we could have motions to amend that recommended action.
Since I brought up the fence earlier, I guess I just wanted to kind of follow up on that, on your comments. I see your perspectives, and thinking about it, I am wondering, what does an 8 fence fix that a 6-foot fence doesn't fix? I don't have incredibly strong feelings on either way. If the consensus of the commission is that there's no need to make any exceptions for an 8-foot fence, I'm fine with that. I don't know if anyone else has any strong opinions either way.
Commissioner Sturza is going to make a motion to recommend approval of the proposed site plan to convert the existing building at 7424 Lindale Avenue South to retail sales.
Commissioner Charlton, seconds.
It's been moved and seconded, and I would like to move to amend the recommendation to add that that fencing be required on the side facing the multifamily housing as well.
I'm sorry, Chair and Commissioners, please forgive me. Did the motion include a fence along the west property line?
It does, doesn't it?
It does, because I'm putting forward staff report, and staff report had the west, didn't it?
Oh, I'm sorry, an 8-foot fence along.
No,
No,
a
you're just
6
saying
foot.
We're talking
6
6
foot
foot.
only.
Yeah.
Thank you for, I'm sorry, I must not
Just
have
what was
heard
in the staff
correctly.
report.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So I'm moving to amend the recommendations that we forward to add a requirement for 6 foot along the multifamily. Is there a second for that?
I see.
So moved, Commissioner Stursa.
Okay. Any discussion on the amendment?
I would just ask that any practical difficulties, anything that comes up in recommending this, that be brought forward to the council discussion, just because there could be unintended consequences with this that we haven't thought through. So just anything that comes up post this meeting, that be brought through to city council.
Okay, yes.
All right, with no other discussion, the motion before us is to amend the recommended action to add a requirement for fencing on the multifamily side. All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the amendment is adopted. We're back onto the main motion of the recommended action. Any other discussion?
Yeah, we had mentioned earlier about recommending that the city council look at the code again about requiring fences along multifamily. Is that within our purview to just recommend to the city council that they revisit the issue and study that issue?
Yes, I don't think it would be attached to this proposal,
Okay.
but there's nothing to keep us from asking city staff to pass our concerns to.
Yeah,
city
because
council.
that seems like something that came up quite a bit here, and I would like to, just pass it along to city staff that we are concerned that that's not a part of the city code right now, and would just friendly suggest that it be examined and discussed.
Any other discussion on the main motion?
I'd also ask for an amendment, or at least a note passed on by Planner Crosby to the council about the traffic issues, and just so people are at least heard at that level. I know we can't do much here, but I want to be sympathetic to that.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
Just passing along that, we heard a lot about traffic in that area, and, I know it's not really our purview, but I would like to pass that along.
Like specifically call it out in the, yes, I can do that.
Yeah.
All right, seeing no other discussion, all those in favor of taking the recommended staff action as amended, please say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, carries. The next thing on the agenda would be resolutions, and I don't believe we have any before us. Is that correct?
Hold on. Oh, no. This, the next item is under other business, for better or worse.
All right.
Yeah.
So then, other business. Do we have a staff report for that?
Did you move it to him? Okay.
Turn that on to start with. My name is Steve McDaniel. I'm the budget, cash, and debt manager. And as far as the staff report goes, I would believe that would fall to somebody else. I could be wrong. Am I supposed to present the staff report, or was that supposed to be Sam Crosby? So this is my first time being here, and I was watching last year's, and I don't recall if I presented the staff report or not, but happy to present a staff report if I'm supposed to. I do have a PowerPoint presentation, but I do apologize.
Steve, I think you can just go ahead with the presentation.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's how it went on last
Okay.
time. Yeah.
Sounds good. To begin, again, my name is Steve McDaniel, Budget Cash Debt Manager, and I'm here to present the 2026 capital improvement budget and also the 4-year, which is 2027 to 2030 capital improvement plan. To begin, the 2026 capital improvement budget totals just under $22 million, and there are 4 different areas that make that up. There is recreation and open space, which is $6,725,000 then. What we'll see on a few slides past these main charts are a few projects that make that up, but To begin with, the Veterans Park Complex, which is funded by sales tax bonds, makes up $5 million of that $6.7 million number, as well as an additional $1 million for the Wood Lake Nature Center, also funded by sales tax bonds. Those are the main components. There's also an additional $725,000 in there. For the right-of-way, that is $9.9 million, or roughly 45%. For 2026, that's made up of a main piece of that is going to be $7.5 million for the Nicollet reconstruction project. There are a few other projects in there as well, and we'll get to those on the next few slides. For public facilities or utilities, $1.5 million. $900,000 of that is related to a multi-year sanitary sewer mainlining project. That's an annual project that's ongoing. And lastly, in the yellow there is 17% or $3.8 million related to buildings, fleet, and technology. About $1.65 million of that is related to multi-year fleet purchases, so purchases of vehicles for the city. An additional $1.475 million of that amount is related to the Public Works Storage Facility. What we'll see on this next slide is of that $22 million, where are the funds coming from then? The main bulk of it, as I had mentioned before, in the green there, 27% is sales tax bonds, and that's related to the Veterans Park Complex, as well as an additional $1 million for the Wood Lake Nature Center in 2026. In the purple is the GO bonds utilities. In 2026, that's 18%. Let's see what the main components of that's going to be. It's going to be the multi-year Nicollet reconstruction project are funded by GO bonds utilities. The other big piece is going to be the 16% property tax bonds, and that again is related to the Nicollet reconstruction project. $3.5 million in 2026 is related to that. Those are kind of the big pieces of the pie. There's also some additional pieces in there, and happy to answer any questions if there are any at the end or as we go throughout this presentation then. So looking then at the next 4 years, 2027 to 2030, we have a larger number here of this $132 million. And generally, if you saw on the last slide, $22 million, if you multiply that by 4 years, you're going to be at about $88 million. So why is this? Coming in somewhere between $30 to $40 million more than that on average. And the main piece of that's going to be in the recreation and open space. In 2029 and 2030 is when we're planning to do the community center project, and that's where it's going to be $45 million in sales tax bonds and then $10 million in property tax bonds. So that makes up a big piece of this larger amount on average then. So that takes care of the recreation open space. That's a majority of those costs is the $55 million related to the community center. The right-of-way improvements of $46 million, again, it's related to the ongoing Nicollet reconstruction project as well as the Penn project then as well, and I'll get to those on a few slides from here. In the utilities, right-of-way projects and utility projects sometimes are related to the same project, so there's going to be pieces in there related to Nicollet and Penn reconstruction as well. Lastly, the buildings and fleet. I think what was new this year, I almost think that fleet was usually just putting together a one-year budget, but what we're starting to get fleet to do is what is it going to look like for the next 4 years. So roughly about $1.5 million is about the assumed ongoing purchases of vehicles for the next 4 years on average, but about $1.5 million or so. Again, we'll see this larger pie chart in your packet. As I was looking at the PowerPoint presentation, I did make one little change, and it's related to the purple used to show 6% related to fleet special revenue. When I was looking at it visually, that seemed wrong. So fleet special revenue is supposed to be in the yellow. The purple is the GO bonds utility projects. Again, for the next 4 years, we're looking at that $132 million number. The bond sales tax in the green, that's the biggest piece of that related to the community center, which is $45 million in bond sales tax. The additional $10 million for the community center is in the blue 21%, which is the property tax bonds. And again, on this slide, just wanted to highlight that I did make a mistake in the packet. Hopefully that's just the only mistake then, but just wanted to update for the record, the purple should be the 16% and the yellow is the 6% for fleet special revenue. On this next slide, we'll start to see some of these bigger projects. I've talked about the Nicollet Avenue reconstruction project, and these, all this information is gathered from departments. We do some vetting of these projects, understand the cost and the impact of it then as well, and these slides are prepared by departments then. So this, the Nicollet Avenue reconstruction project does have an estimated cost of about $25 million. Of that, there's a county cost share agreement that the city has with Hennepin County, and as of now, that the city share is estimated to be $11.5 million. So that project is ongoing for 2026 and 2027. The other big project that I referenced before is the Penn Avenue reconstruction project. Here it's estimated to be $32.6 million. Starting in years 2028 to 2029, so it showed up as part of that overall, part of that $132 million pie in years between 2027 and 2030. The estimated city share is $12.8 million. Again, the construction starts in 28 to 29. There may be some costs in prior years that may range, I think it's between $200,000 to $300,000 then. And my understanding is that most of those costs are related to more soft costs. These are the hard costs of the construction costs in these outer years, but in the earlier years could be some engineering and design kind of projects, project costs. This next slide for still with Public Works is related to some sidewalks and safe routes to school projects. There are 3 different projects here. I think for the most part they are occurring in 2026. One of them may continue into 2027. We have a 64th Street sidewalk project, the 73rd Street sidewalk project, and the Sheridan Hills Safe Routes to Schools project. What we'll see is there's state grant funding of $2.4 million and then city funding of $770,000. So kind of ends up being close to like 25%. It's not exact, but that's kind of the breakdown of those numbers. The city is contributing 25% of the project or so, and with the state grant and through the competitive bid process, the state is funding about $2.4 million. There is a $5 million project slated in 2027 related to the emergency water interconnect. And what this project's going to do, I know a lot of these, every one of these projects has its own project sheet in your packet. I know there's 100+ pages of materials for the Planning Commission today then. I forget the exact page this one is on, but if you're familiar with this project, it is to create some redundancy with the city of Minneapolis. The goal is that the city of Richfield is relying on its own water system, and in case of some kind of failure, having this redundancy with the city of Minneapolis is what the Public Works is suggesting with this project then. There's a few other projects then. The annual cost to the sanitary sewer lining of $900,000, that's in 2026. It was in previous years then as well, and it's ongoing and annually. Water treatment plant elevator construction project of $175,000 in 2026. And lastly, the water treatment plant generator project of $2.5 million being funded through utility bonds in 2027. We're now moving on to the recreation services projects. Then there are projects at other departments then as well. IT has some small projects, and fire and police each have some projects then as well. But these are highlighting kind of that big pieces of the overall $22 million in 2026 and $132 million in years after that. Then so most of those usually come from Public Works and Recreation Services. The big one that should be wrapping up in the winter of 2026 is the Wood Lake Nature Center. This had a project budget of $26 million. 12 million of that was from state grant funding, and that was in previous years then. 11 million is from bond sales tax. 10 million of that was in 2024, I believe then, and we're receiving the additional $1 million in sales tax bonds coming up here at the end of the year. The additional $3 million was related to a federal grant then, so that's where the $26 million came from. For the Veterans Memorial Park Complex, a $9 million project funded by the sales tax bonds as well. The pool is estimated to be $4.25 million. Work for that did begin, I think it's starting right about now then and is going on into the spring, and I think it should wrap up in the spring as far as I know. Park improvements, $2.6 million, and the ice arena is $1.7 million. So these projects are in 2026 and into 2027 then as well. The new community center building, the $55 million is slated to begin for the most part in 2029. There may be some smaller costs in 2028, but the bulk of it is 2029 and 2030. $45 million, again, funded through sales tax bonds, with $10 million being funded with property tax bonds. One of the last updates for recreation services is that there is this Parks Master Plan, and this is estimated to be $180,000. And what recreation services is planned to do is evaluate the existing park system, develop a shared vision for the park system, develop prioritization strategy to guide decision-making and investments, and establish a detailed implementation program. With that being said, previously scheduled was the Donaldson Park Building and Playground project that was estimated to be about $1.8 million. Because of the Parks Master Plan, this is being paused for now. It may come into fruition through what they see through the Parks Master Plan, but as of right now, this project is on hold, but may resume depending on the outcomes of the Parks Master Plan. That concludes my presentation. Apologies on the confusion on the staff report at the beginning, but I'm here to answer any questions.
Commissioner Sursa, really nice job on the presentation. Like, you can actually understand what is what's being planned for, and I just felt like it was a really easy report to read. So thank you for that. Very excited to see the Parks Master Plan. I know it's a small item in a very big capital improvement budget, but very excited to see that. Was very excited to see the sidewalks that are being planned, and was curious, this might be a little outside of your scope, but do you know how it was decided which sidewalks the city would put apply for those grants, or like kind of a little bit more about that, and if there's any talk of like a sidewalk master plan that is being proposed?
Sure, yeah, I could try to answer it, but I see Katie Rodriguez, city manager, standing up, so I'll defer to a friend here.
Yes, thank you. And did you want me to read the staff report? We're spoiled. Staff are spoiled at council meetings because the council members actually read the staff reports. So would you like me to? I didn't have it up, so I wasn't ready to do it, but I'm happy to do that.
I think the presentation answered it, and the other aspect would be what we're required to do, and that would be to make a finding about this at the end. So I think we're good.
Okay, thank you. So we had a pedestrian master plan that was put together in 2018. And then more recently, that helped inform an active transportation plan that the council passed in 2024. And so that guides, overall, it guides this work that we're doing. But then the individual projects we are submitting, there's a Safe Routes to School program that you can apply to, a competitive grant program through MnDOT, but then there's also one that is run through the Met Council Regional Solicitation Project. And so depending on the criteria for both of those programs, we're trying to pick projects that are going to compete well. And we've done really well over the years, and I give all the credit to Public Works staff. We're also working with Richfield Public Schools. They have a Safe Routes to School coordinator, and so they are also they're telling us what the school needs are. So that collaboration, plus our guiding documents and the trying to be competitive with the programs, that's what guides the projects that get picked and awarded.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ditto with the presentation is wonderful. Digging into the numbers and stuff is always fun. But it looks like there's not a lot of federal funding in here. And so I was curious if that is the case. And then two, does that mean that we're fairly well protected from any instability from federal funding?
Yeah, I can take your question. I don't have the spreadsheet up in front of me, but we've been tracking it for the council, and I can certainly follow up with you. As a percentage, it is lower. We did lose a grant. We lost a public health grant, about $500,000. It was mostly a pass-through to Bloomington Public Health. So the loss is really good programming that Bloomington Public Health was doing about vaccine hesitancy, but it wasn't that the city had staff that they had to lay off or anything like that. We are continuing to monitor it. For these particular grants that are federal, that are coming through the Met Council, we have been told that is not going to get clawed back at this point.
Thank you.
I'm gonna, unless there's any other comment, I was gonna make a motion. Are we ready for it?
I was just going to make a quick comment.
yep.
I just wanted to wax poetic about city planning for a minute. I feel like a lot of our work here feels very mundane and signing papers and like looking at like codes and things, but like all of these things are to create a healthy city with a healthy tax base that pays for stuff like this. And I'm literally getting choked up thinking about this. Like sidewalks for my kid to go to school is really, it's really great. And I'm just, I love when we get to look at these budget reports. Great presentation, just because it feels like that's why we're doing it. So, thank you.
Echoing what, do you want to make the motion?
To your field, Commissioner Hui says, I would like to motion to take the staff action to accept the report as presented. Thank you.
And Commissioner Sturza will second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. The next thing on the agenda would be liaison reports. And first one, Community Services Advisory. Hui.
Yes, we actually talked about a handful of the projects in the presentation. Big one is there's no more Wood Lake Nature Center. That's fully demolished. The park is still open. You have to use some different ways to get into the park, but exciting to see some major progress over there.
All right. The City Council, related to what we were just discussing, the City Council has a work session this week where they're going to talk about safe routes to school and also gun violence. So, relevant to some of the things we've been discussing. They also proclaimed Hispanic Heritage Month at the last meeting, and then there was some issues with municipal consent, the city approving to move on some of the 494 reconstructions, the next phase of that, as well as one about feeding wildlife. And I have to read more. I didn't read the staff report about that one, and I want to because that seemed particularly interesting. Next is housing and redevelopment.
The HRA at its last meeting accepted a Bring It Home Minnesota funding award of over $1 million for over 2 years. The money comes from the metro area sales tax that dedicated a portion of the funds towards state level rental assistance. And the grant award for the cities that applied for it, or the HRAs that applied for it, is based on the amount of income eligible households in the community. So the funds are expected to serve about 35 to 45 households in Ridgefield with ongoing rental assistance, and it's likely to launch in 2026. So pretty cool to see that.
Transportation.
Yes, the Transportation Commission recently went on a tour to Richfield bike ride, if you want to call it that, touring some of our new transportation infrastructure and future projects. The last regular meeting here at City Hall I attended, I believe it was in early August. There was a presentation by a planner from Metro Transit about their study for future arterial BRT corridors. They spoke about Penn Avenue, Bloomington Avenue, and 66th Street as candidates for that, and the commission gave feedback on those ideas. There was discussion of safe routes to school plans, which I think we just talked about and saw in the presentation just now. That was discussed there. And there was a project update from staff from Hennepin County about planning for the Penn Avenue reconstruction and beginning the community engagement for that process as the planning and design phase gets underway for 2028 construction.
And sustainability.
The Sustainability Commission is getting a new youth commissioner from Ridgefield High School. They will be starting next month rather. Other note was outreach to condos and apartment buildings, just about cleaning up the waste stream and making sure that things don't end up in the trash that shouldn't be there. And there will be a tree health awareness event coming up in the fall, pending ongoing litigation with surrounding suburbs.
Thank you. And the agenda next is the city planner's report.
Thank you, Chair and Commission. On September 9th, the City Council approved the MR2, MR3 zoning code updates. So it was basically a year in the process. It's also exciting that Loma Bonita grocery store is nearing completion, and they are talking about aiming for an October 1st opening. We'll see if they get there. Maybe October 3rd. Anyhow, also MICC is currently in for sketch plan review. That's the type of approval, it's not an approval, it's a type of process where they just kind of talk with staff about the rules and regulations before a formal land use application is made. They do expect to be applying for formal land use before the end of the year. And they are having a neighborhood open house on Tuesday, October 7th at their location at 2000 West 76th Street. And I can forward you the official invite when it comes out. And then also, we were thinking about how to just provide you additional information about what we do on a daily basis, because development cases kind of come by, here and there, and I don't know if you're wondering what are we doing with our time in between all that. But Ruby had put together a brief overview of code enforcement. We enforce the sign, subdivision, and zoning codes, apart from our code enforcement division, which is housed under our police department. We have our own, we do our own code enforcement. So, Ruby.
Thank you. So let me just open this up really quick. So like Sam said, we put this together. I don't know how to, whatever. I'll just leave it like that. We put this together a couple months ago, and it actually came out of, we have like a new online permitting website / software, and we have started to put in our code enforcement cases in there starting in 2023. So we have a way of kind of, now we have like a full year's worth of code enforcement data, and we were kind of curious to see what has been going on in the past few years, or at least for 2024, where we have a full calendar year's worth of code enforcement cases. So before I go into this a little bit, maybe I could talk a little bit about how the process kind of goes on in Richfield. So we have a complaint-based system, and what that means is that typically we're not like out looking for cases. We kind of wait for the complaints to come in, and that's partly because we don't have like dedicated code enforcement staff, at least not the planning and zoning division. And I say we because it's only Sam and I. Like, it's a two-person division, so it's not a lot of us. So we're complaint-based, and we pretty much just wait for complaints to come in. Sometimes violations are noticed by like housing inspectors doing inspections, or building inspectors when they're out in the field. So that's kind of like an overview, I guess, of how that goes on. And the process, to basically simplify it, is it starts off with staff. We'll send a couple letters, and we give like 2 weeks in between letters that we send. They're basically notices telling homeowners that they basically need to comply, or that there's something going on in their property. And if they don't comply, it eventually reaches the city prosecutor, and that's simplifying it, because a lot of the time we work with homeowners to give them more time, and for different reasons. But within reason, we will give people more time. A lot of times, if it's something that was opened like during the winter, like maybe a driveway was poured wrong or something, we will give them like until the spring to rip out your driveway, basically. So that's kind of how the process works. And this is just kind of an overview of code enforcement cases in 2024. And I believe I had talked to you, Chair, in the past about, I think you had asked a question about code enforcement before, and I had mentioned that I thought it was like home occupations that were the most that I've dealt with since I've been here, and yeah, that's true. So in 2024, we had 66 resolved and ongoing cases. So by ongoing is just like basically like something that we were still working on at this point. So as of when I made this presentation, we still had 7 that were still open and ongoing at various stages in the process. So we had either granted an extension or it was with the city prosecutor. And if it's with the city prosecutor, it can be at different stages. Like maybe we sent a demand letter asking that a property owner complies within 30 days, or they've been charged and we're waiting for arraignment, or we're waiting for a trial. Like it can be at various stages, and once it reaches the city prosecutor, it just kind of drags on even more because the courts are so backed up. It takes a long time to get a hearing. So in 2024, we had of the 66 that were resolved or ongoing as of when I made this, 10 had reached the city prosecutor. Interestingly, 10 cases of the 66 were unfounded, or cases where we worked on them, but by the end of it, there pretty much was no violation to continue. Like we couldn't. It's not necessarily that there wasn't a violation. We just couldn't find evidence of one, and that's most common for home occupations and for over-occupancy. Those are really hard to prove because there isn't necessarily, like the violation won't always be there. It's not like a fence that was built wrong. Like, I don't know, there might not always be outside storage. There might not always be people coming and going. We don't have cameras in people's homes, so we don't know if there are actually truly an over-occupancy issue. But regardless, we look into all complaints if a complaint is given. One other interesting thing, the longest code enforcement case out of all 2024 cases took about a year to resolve. And that did reach the city prosecutor. It didn't reach trial, but it did go on for an entire year. Of closed cases, the average length of time taken to comply was about 3 months. And that sounds pretty standard to the typical process that we go through with sending 2 letters, allowing 2 weeks in between letters, and then sending a demand letter. And then in 13 of the 66 cases in 2024, staff, so that means Samurai, conducted an on-site visit with the property owner or a representative of the property. And that is significant because it's outside of. So with these code enforcement cases, we're constantly doing inspections, right? We send a letter, we inspect. If it's something not complied with, we send another letter. We inspect again, so we're constantly inspecting. But these on-site visits are something where we specifically, like the property owner requested, can you come on site and come talk to me about this issue? And it's not necessarily something that is going to resolve the case, but it just helps them to kind of understand like where they're at, what is exactly going on, and it can help us also just get more information. So that was in 13 cases. We went out and met with somebody, and yeah, I didn't really have anything else, but if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. All right. Then I would entertain, if there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Sturts also move.
Commissioner Surma, second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned.